drive. Happy Sunday, everybody. My name is Bob, and this is the podcast of interest to no one. I hope the New Year's off to a great start for everyone, even though mine's a little rough so far. See, I recorded last week's episode just as I was on my way to a New Year's Eve party. It was a costume party, and the theme was country music stars, and I decided to go as Johnny Cash. I even dyed my hair. When it was all said and done, I think it came out pretty good. What do you think? So anyway, on New Year's Day, we come back home and I plan out my schedule for the next 5 days, and it's just packed. I mean, I got a lot of stuff to do. And I want to take down the Christmas decorations, clean the garage, run errands, all sorts of stuff, as well as try to launch a few new shows on my YouTube page. So I go to bed and I'm ready to knock out my monster to-do list when I wake up, and BAM! Flu. And I'm out of commission for the next 2 days. So needless to say, I've just gotten back on my feet and I've barely tackled a fraction of my list. And I was trying to figure out what to do for this week's episode. Normally I'd have a tutorial to share, but being laid up means I didn't get much done. Ironically, the only thing I did do was get my brew closet built, something I said I wouldn't discuss on this show because I didn't want to double dip with the beer show I'm planning on doing. But since I find myself in this predicament that I'm in right now, I can either end the show right now with nothing to talk about, or I can just go ahead and tell you how I built the closet. As it turns out, I've already written the episode of The Beer Show, and it's not very technical in its description of how I built the closet, so I don't think there's actually going to be all that much overlapping anymore. So here you go, my guide to installing closet shelves. The great thing about the direction I took with these shelves is that they're completely adjustable and they can serve almost any purpose you want. Plus, they're perfectly normal, so if you ever decide to turn it back into a regular closet or sell the house, you don't need to tear anything out. The tools you'll need are a power drill, a tape measure, and a level. Stud finder would also be really helpful. And for aesthetic purposes, you'll probably want some spackle too. The first step is to remove the old shelves, thus creating the holes you'll want to fill in. Step 2 is to measure the interior of the closet. Have it all charted out and written down when you go to buy the new shelves. Standing in the aisle at the hardware store is not the time to start guessing on dimensions. Now, since the person who put in the old shelves didn't know what they were doing, and we want to do the job right, we're going to have to find the studs. There are 3 ways to do this. The first, and easiest way, is to buy a stud finder. Since I don't have a stud finder, I use the second method, which is the tap test. You move along the wall, tapping lightly as you go, and you'll notice occasionally there will be a change in tone. That's the location of the stud. The third method is really just a last-ditch effort, which I absolutely do not recommend, and that's to just go along and drill a hole about every inch until you find a stud. You really don't want to do this. I mean, it works, but it makes a huge, ugly mess, so just avoid it at all costs. Use the other 2 methods, really. Anyway, now you know where the studs are, and it's time to install the new rails. I went with the double hook brackets because they're sturdier. Interesting note, only the single bracket mounts have the hook on the end. I wanted to combine the 2 for this project, using doubles in the middle for support and then singles on the end to hold the shelves in place. But it turns out that the spacing on the holes for the different types of rails is different, so you'll have to choose one or the other for your project. You can get the different rails in different lengths, and I got the 70-inch ones so that I'd have the full height of the closet to work with. Measure where you want the bottom of the rail to go. I chose about 6 inches above the trim. Measure and mark that spot with a crow's foot. Hold the rail against the wall and mark the spot where the screws will go. Now take a drill bit, one that's narrower than the screws you're using, and drill lead holes into where you made your marks. All you have to do now is put the rail in place and drive the screws into the leader holes. I recommend putting the bottom screw in halfway, but before you finish, go up to the top and place a level on the top of the bracket and adjust it so you can make sure it's perfectly straight. Now because you're following the stud, it should already be pretty close, but it doesn't hurt to double check. But now the construction part is done and all that's left is to attach the brackets and lay out the shelves. In my case, it turned out that the shelves were about 3 inches too long, so I had to cut them down. It's a simple matter of measuring, marking each one with a crow's foot, and then cutting it with a circular saw. And that's it, your shelves are done. I hope that tutorial helps you out with any shelving projects you have. It works great for pantries, laundry rooms, garages, all sorts of stuff. If you'd like to see these shelves in action, check out The Beer Show, debuting later this week, and with any of luck, I'll have a few of the other shows off the ground too, so keep an eye out for them. So, take it easy, good luck with your own projects, and I will see you next Sunday.